from 31 yards. McPherson. And Cincinnati is heading to the Super Bowl.
Tony Romo obviously probably predicted that whole scenario, but like we talked about, the first game on the board, Cincinnati traveled to Arrowhead to take on Patrick Mahomes and the insurmountable Chiefs, right? Vegas loved Kansas City here. 7-point favorites at home, over under 54.5, expecting a ton of points. And obviously the Bengals coming in, a young team, unproven. This is the best they've done in a really long time. They do end up winning this game. Obviously, we'll talk more about this, but 27-24 final. Game goes to overtime. The kicker becomes the hero. Once again, Cincinnati covers the 7-point spread under 54.5 hits. Holy shit. I mean, I'm just going back to our reactions during the game as the game was unfolding. And I think it was just one of those things where every single time something was happening, in the first half, it was like, okay, this is exactly what we expected. And then every single time something was happening in the second half, this was not at all what we expected, right? A tale of two halves. What'd you guys see here?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, what I saw was the Chiefs shit the bed. Like, they basically just did not show up in the second half. When you were watching the first half of the game, they're running the ball. Patrick Mahomes gets 3 touchdowns. They're up 21-3. You think that this game is going to be over. How in the world are the Bengals going to come back and compete with the Kansas City Chiefs? But, you know, less on the Cincinnati Bengals for me, more on the Bengals just fucking up. And the Chiefs fucking up and not able to score points. When you only scored 3 points in the second half, it kind of started whenever it was the end, almost the end of the second half. First half. Wow, just messing up all over the place.
That's all good.
With like 14 seconds remaining. Yeah. They call a play where Patrick Mahomes gives it to Tyreek Hill. And Ayush was sitting there saying, what a momentum shift. Like, that's insane. And I'm thinking, they're still down 21-3. How's this a momentum shift? But he was right. Because after that, the Chiefs were not able to do anything. One of the biggest hurdles of the Cincinnati Bengals was the sacks that they were allowing. Only 1 sack allowed, and Burrow just not getting sacked. And on the other side, Bengals sacking and making sure that Mahomes is down and not able to extend plays like he was doing in the first half. And that's kind of what boiled down to the win at the end.
Yeah, the thing about these playmaking quarterbacks is they rely on that solely after a while. Like, look at the Russell Wilsons. Look at the Patrick Mahomes. They're elite for that reason, right? That is what separates them from the pocket presence quarterbacks. And what's crazy is that is also Mahomes' Achilles heel. If you think about it, last year in the Super Bowl, that's literally what happened. He was running around back and forth. Nobody else does that but Mahomes, and I think that needs to be adjusted. He did say before early in the season, he's like, I need to be more of a pocket presence guy, like Kirk Cousins, like Tom Brady. He said that, and he did that for a long while, but then he has this moment where he just reverts into going back to scramble mode. And yes, you can make plays from situations like that, but there's so much room for error. There's so much room for things going wrong when you implement that thing. And all it takes is one play for that to not work, and you have a deep sack, right? And that's basically what happened to the Chiefs. Here's a little stat that's very un-Mahomes-like, but so the Chiefs are 27-2 when leading by 10 or more points at halftime, right? Since 2018, including the playoffs. Both of their losses, the 2 losses, were against the Bengals, both this season.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So, like, the Bengals definitely are doing something that's freaking out the Chiefs, right? Like, we talked about how you can, this may be how you stop the Chiefs, that may be how you stop the Chiefs, but when it all boils down, look at what the Bengals did, and that's basically contain the quarterback. And they were like, you know what, we'll let you run around. Yeah. You can make those plays if you want, but the chances of that hitting every single time is low, right? It's just low. So what the defense, you got to give it up to the Bengals defense. They literally were my MVP in this game. As much as I love Burrow and everything, this was on the defense. The Bengals defense literally carried them in the second half. They were like, you know what, I don't care if it's Patrick Mahomes. I don't care if we're at Arrowhead. They're like, we're not going to let them score. And they didn't. And that led to Patrick Mahomes having a career low 12.3 passer rating in the second half of this game. 12.3. That's pathetic.
Is that Mahomes we're talking about?
Yeah.
That's incredible. No, one thing we talked about was discipline, and that's what the defensive line did, right? Their defensive line was like they were spaced so well so that when Mahomes was trying to scramble to the left or right, it would be that same 3 guys that come in at that same spot and making sure that they contained him. And that's what it kind of boiled down to.
Yeah, so reading up on some articles yesterday after the game had ended, I can't remember what his name was, but he wrote a really good article about how basically the reason that the two wins the two losses the Chiefs have in that situation that you had pointed out are against the Bengals both this year. This game specifically, the whole first half, the Bengals defense was trying to play the same way that all of these other defenses had tried to figure out with the two high safeties, right? So you take all the over the top stuff away and you have to let them beat you underneath. And that's where Mahomes for like the last 8 weeks now has been living because that's what everybody's doing. So that same formula clearly wasn't working, right? He was just carving up that defense, 200 plus yards, 3 touchdowns in one half or something like that. And then what happened was they were like, fuck that. We're going to go ahead and adjust now because at that point you're down 21-3 at half. Yeah. It's a win or go home situation, right? Not adjusting would be stupid. You know, like being like too hard-headed or set in your ways and be like, no, this is going to work. I mean, at that point it looked like the Chiefs were going to put up like 45 points that game. So what they ended up doing was they went single high and they had the other safety play robber. So he was coming down the line a little bit more. So basically what was happening in those situations where Mahomes was trying to do his scrambling thing is there was an extra guy that was close enough there that the minute he saw an opportunity, like the minute Mahomes would do like his turn that way and he would not be seeing what was happening, this guy would just go, right? And that happened 2 or 3 times. His 4 sacks were all in the fourth quarter, all in crunch time. So basically that adjustment is phenomenal, right? That's just insane because you know that you're adjusting like that with a guy like Tyreek Hill on the outside that at any point that single high safety just creeps that way, that's a touchdown to Tyreek Hill, right? So comes with a ton of risk, but kudos to them for adjusting, knowing that in the biggest stage, like, you know, it's either adjust or go home. Like, just continue to get torched. So I thought that was incredible. You're absolutely right. I think that's the feast or famine that is Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, we have way more feasting than we have famine, but I think you, in like his outlier scenario, you live with those results, right? Like we talked about time and time again. It's unfortunate, and we talked about how he was so lucky with like the balls going his way the last couple of years, where that's kind of regressed to the mean, but. The touchdown throw to Tyreek Hill in the first quarter would not have happened, right? I mean, that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Yeah. Probably the best catch I've seen Tyreek Hill make. But those are some of the things that obviously are the X factor or the reason why you win. But one other thing I want to note on the Joe Burrow side, we talked about it. Like, it's not like he had a fantastic game. No. On paper, it doesn't look ideal. Like there were throws that were missed. He had a couple of interceptions on his side that were also dropped as well, right? So that stat line could have looked very, very different. But I think the biggest difference this game that I saw from Burrow is some of those really, really timely scrambles. Like, and it wasn't like he's so much faster than the defender that it's like, okay, he's got a crease, it's gone. The guy's literally like on his ass. Like I feel like he was breathing on him.
Yeah, he shrugged him off.
Yeah, and it was just like one of those things where like he was visually looking this way. The guy was like right here. Yeah. How the hell did he know to do that little thing? Hurdle. Yeah, like how?
Awareness, timing. He's like, that guy's running this fast. I need to get rid of this or do something before he touches me.
That's fucking next level, bro. Because, again, unlike Mahomes or any other quarterback, when you have that crease and you're fast, like it doesn't matter where that guy's at. You're going to beat him. But Burrow, you could tell he was using like 150% of his running capabilities and speed, and that guy was just like right on his ass. So, I mean, as clutch as it gets, like it's just little things like that I think just kind of fell Cincinnati's way. And there's no, I'm not taking anything away from their victory because I think it was phenomenal. But like you said early in this segment, Shovit, it's hard not to look back on this. Up 21-3, you're the best offense in football. Like you have the best quarterback in football. I mean, it's hard to see this as anything less than a choke on Kansas City's end.
Yeah, I mean, I think they also played in terms of coaching to not favor Patrick Mahomes' tendencies, because how often do we see him go left instead of right? Like he's a right-handed quarterback, and if you're trying to scramble to the left, I'm sure if he looks at the tape, he's going to see guys that are open. But when you have that safety in the middle of the field, and when you're already running, kind of going the opposite of the direction you're throwing, you're going to have a hard time trying to zip it to that guy that might be open. So just playing it to their tendencies helped out for sure.
Yeah. I mean, nonetheless, it was an insane game, I think, for all of us to see a team that 2 years ago, 2-14, worst record in the entire league, 2 years later are now in the Super Bowl. I mean, it's incredible. Obviously, so many things had to go right for this franchise, starting with hitting on a franchise quarterback, right? I mean, that doesn't happen every day. Number 1 overall pick, Joe Burrow, you hit on that. You, against all odds and against the critiques of most people that do what we do and even in greater, I guess, commodity, were obviously big on the Bengals for passing up on Penei Sewell and drafting Jamar Chase, right? When you need an offensive line, where the reason Burrow got hurt for the entire year was that reason.
Mm-hmm.
And Jamar Chase, I think we can all sit here and agree, was such an X factor to them this season.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
you couldn't have asked for somebody to come in as a rookie and play the way he did. So all of those things, I mean, paired with a young coach, paired with like everything that's kind of gone right for them, it's to me, it's like nothing short of like, is this destiny for the fucking Cincinnati Bengals?
I wonder what your guys' take is on this. I was looking at some of the year-end bets, and Mike Vrabel was the favorite to win Coach of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Now that the Bengals are in the Super Bowl, do you put Zach Taylor in that conversation ahead of Mike Vrabel? Or do you think Mike Vrabel should still get that Coach of the Year?
I think Coach of the Year gets established before the preseason. So anything that happens in
Playoffs,
preseason,
you mean?
Sorry, yeah, the playoffs. I don't think they say that.
Yeah.
But how much of that doesn't play a role?
I mean, it's hard to not let that bias come in, like linger in your brain, right? Because it's subjective, because the people voting are still thinking about like the playoffs.
Yeah. Like Aaron Rodgers was unanimous MVP, but then you see his game in the playoffs at home. Did not play like an MVP, right? So all of that's going to be taken into consideration, obviously. But in my vote, because of the way the selection process goes, it still goes to Vrabel for that reason. But if we really did this appropriately, which I think we should, I hate that whole stop.
Regular season. Yeah, dude.
Because what really matters, the playoffs. Right?
At the end of the day, those coaches are going to be judged on playoff wins and Super Bowls in like 10 years from now.
Everybody gets judged on the playoffs. Nobody talks about
nobody
regular
cares
season.
about regular.
So why is it that important?
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't make any sense to me. But if the tides were turned and if this was the way of evaluating people, the playoff process, then hands down, dude.
Right.
Beat the Chiefs twice in one season when they have a total of 5 losses, or now 6. But that's just amazing.
Yeah.
Like the Bengals, when I watch this game from like how I told you guys, like I don't like to watch games from like the fun of the game perspective. I always like to choose a side because it makes me more hyped, right? Personally. So I was like, okay, who's most likely to win this game? It's probably Patrick Mahomes at home, right? You're like, of course he's going to win. And then you see how the coaching was done, the halftime adjustments, which were, as Vikings fans, Mike Zimmer did that a lot. You know, that's why he stayed for as long as he did, because he was like the king of halftime adjustments. And just watching that process it was a whole different team playing. So you got to give props to the coach for that. Right. There's a lot of props to the coach.
Yeah, and I think like you're spot on. I think now recency bias is going to come into play in thinking Zach Taylor deserved it. And I think at the end of the day, if Zach Taylor were to win it, none of us would sit here and be upset. But I think based on how they select it, just regular season, nothing else matters. I think it should still go to Vrabel. Just, not only did, again, let's forget the fact that the Bengals in the Super Bowl, the Titans were the number 1 seed in the AFC, a loaded AFC, might I add, now that you think back on it, as like a bunch of nobodies. Right. Ryan Tannehill-led squad with no Derrick Henry, right? So that feat in itself, regular season, separate from all this, still deserves Coach of the Year to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Bengals overcame a lot in the first half of the game. Like they lost to the Packers, they lost to the Jets, right, and things like that. But then they really just kind of came around. And you always say that when you have a young team, like they're gonna make mistakes, they're gonna have interceptions, and I think coaching has a lot to do with that. Whenever you're able to rile the guys together and able to help them or get them to the Super Bowl. So, and the turnaround from 4-6 or 2-14 to get into the Super Bowl. I mean, that's got to be huge. But yeah, if it's all in regular season, then yeah, I guess maybe Mike Vrabel.
I wouldn't be upset.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. They both deserve it. But here's a little fun thing that I kind of just started thinking about. This isn't really a young team. If you think about it from like an age perspective, yes, but from an experience perspective, they played with each other. They won national championships together. Yep. This whole Chase thing, it's surprising to many. Like if let's say we watch with our parents or like watch with friends that don't watch football, they're like, that guy's a rookie, but in reality, they've been playing together much longer than when you have like a 2-year veteran come into a team and playing with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, that's not as special as what Burrow and Chase have, and that changed everything. Yeah, that chemistry, these are the intangibles. These are the non-statistical things that matter. Yep. And Burrow's composure, Burrow's mentality, mixed with his chemistry with Chase, it was bound to be historical. And I did not think they were going to make it this historical. But it was bound to be this quickly.
Yeah. Speaking of the playoffs, and so Joe Burrow can get a triple crown in terms of Heisman, a national college championship, and then the Super Bowl championship.
So you know what Joe Burrow kind of reminded me of? It was one of those things where like we were watching the whole game and it's not like he was playing his best football. Like we've seen Joe Burrow at his best recently. Like he played amazing down the stretch, obviously in college and everything, right? This game itself, standalone, was not his best performance, but this to me was Joe Burrow in a nutshell, right? We saw the coin toss in overtime and we saw like they zoomed in on both quarterbacks the minute the toss was won, right? Because you could tell Mahomes is like, we want the ball. And Joe Burrow was like, oh, like he's kind of doing the fuck. Like we might have lost just because we lost the coin toss. And I think the mindset, the reason we all love Joe Burrow now, and it's like so easy to cling to Joe Burrow because not only is he a good football player, but like the attitude and demeanor that he brings in. And at this age, because you talk about his success already in LSU, like he was a Heisman Trophy winner, this guy is like the epitome of ice in his veins, right? It's like, it reminds me like, he could come into the fourth quarter having thrown 3 interceptions, and if they get the ball with a chance to win or tie, is there anybody already that would doubt Joe Burrow? Like, I have a hard time thinking that Joe Burrow's not going to come through in that situation. And it's crazy because he's only like 3 years into the league. So it's like, what has he done to earn that? But it's like this moxie, 2 years in the league. It's like this moxie that he comes, with the whole fucking season being hurt. Yeah. So it's like, how has he deserved that? It's like this thing that you can't teach, that you can't quantify, that somebody just like has a presence about them, right? The way they speak, the way they act. And it's like, again, it's easy for me to draw comparisons to Kobe always, right? Just because of who he is. But it's like the games where Kobe would shoot like 6 for 25, but get the ball with the game on the line and still hit the game winner. Yeah. And it's like, dude, that's exactly what Joe Burrow reminds me of.
That drive where he got 2 third downs and the first downs with his legs, that sealed it for me. That whatever happens in the Super Bowl, I don't really care. He was never supposed to be here, right? Yeah. Like to me, it's a bonus because I've never seen anybody do this before. So it's not gonna like surprise me if he loses. But the fact that he is untouchable already, the fact that his whole team has his back, the fact that he is unwavered, it doesn't matter. He just beat, the number 1 seed Titans, and now he's beating the number 1 overall team in the league. Yeah. And it's just still Joe Cool. Yeah. Like you don't see him.
He's not getting too high.
No, he's not. And there's something that when you want to draft a new quarterback, this is where I think it kind of falters. This is where the whole draft process is kind of messed up in this sense because now teams are going to start getting those poised, quick mind quarterback. They're going to fail a lot by doing that because there's not going to be multiple Joe Burrows around. Like this is a one in a lifetime kind of a generational talent that he has. He's just so different than everybody else. You know how we mentioned like Herbert, Mahomes, or Joe Burrow? Mm-hmm. Well, Herbert's like clear third in that ranking as of now, just because he hasn't really proven. The Bengals defense not that great either.
No,
Herbert's defense wasn't great, but that difference that Joe Burrow has that Herbert doesn't have as of yet makes all the difference. Yep. Herbert is not compared to Joe Burrow anymore. Herbert's compared to Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes in his second year. Yeah, this is mind blowing.
Yeah.
And the Steelers are in that division with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Now you're gonna know how we felt for 20 years.
Aaron Rodgers, no, for sure.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, and what a great matchup. Obviously, we'll jump into the next game, but what a great matchup that you have second, whatever, 1.5 year, basically a rookie quarterback, right? You could make that argument. Number 1 overall pick, though, going up against another number 1 overall pick, but a veteran from that sense now. So again, the storybooks just continue to write themselves, and I feel like it's just always.
I'll talk about it more when we talk about the next game, but there's nothing. I've been alive for 31 years. There's nothing as crazy as football. There's nothing. Yeah. Like you could present all kinds of shit to me, and I'm in the medical field. I've seen some weird shit, but like there's nothing you can write up as beautiful as NFL football.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I agree, man. I mean, dude, it's just so different. And again, the aspect of how much like you play the least amount of games in the regular season compared to all other sports, right? And then again, in the playoffs, it's one game. It's not a best of. You can't just be like, you know what, we'll just tank on the road because we're already up 3-1. We'll win it back at home. Like, there's none of that. No. You have to bring it. And if it's not brought, like if you don't have it the second you step on the field for that game, like it's already practically over. Yeah. Like it's just so insane. The level of intensity you have to maintain, how lucky you have to be, how everything has to go right, how the dominoes have to fall. You have to have less injuries than other people. Just all that shit. That's what makes it so fucking beautiful.
It's the ultimate team sport. Yeah. The ultimate.
Yeah. It's, incredible. So kudos to the city of Cincinnati. Again, first time they've been to a Super Bowl since 1988. They have yet to win a Super Bowl, so we get to see another team in the Super Bowl with a chance to win for the first time. I thought about it on the way here. I was like, obviously I want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before I die. That'd be awesome. But how cool would it be that in your entire lifetime you get to witness a Super Bowl by every team? Like that's like a weird bingo card in itself, because the windows that would have to happen. Obviously, there's so many teams that still haven't won yet, but we could literally scratch off a bingo card of a team that's never won that we get to witness in our lifetime.
Let's just hope we're not the last one standing.
Don't worry, the Jacksonville Jaguars may be.
You'll never know,
You
man.
never know, man.
You
never know.
We'll see next year with a new coach.
Yeah.
Who knows what Lawrence can do?
Yeah. So kudos Cincinnati. Kudos the city of Cincinnati. Kudos to all Bengals fans. Again, Joe Cool, everybody. Let's jump into the next game.